Yeah.
We are live. Thank you so All right.
Hey,
Hey, good evening, Shameen. How you doing, sir?
pretty good, man. Coming live from sunny Oklahoma.
Mm.
Oklahoma is a
Oh, what's it like out there? How
place
many
to
black
be.
people you see out there?
Actually, a lot. I guess I'm in
Really?
the urban part. I'm in
Well,
Muskogee, so
okay.
I most of my client visits do not have as many people, and it's
Okay.
good people all across the spectrum. I mean, I told them I'm scouting Oklahoma for the SEC admissions visit.
Well, I tell you what, you be careful out there in Muskogee,
So,
Oklahoma, young
uh,
man. So I know we got a
how
lot.
things going up there?
Go ahead. Well, it's been a day,
How's
to be
that?
honest with you. It's been a day. But it's getting a little colder here in Chicago. And I actually, fall is probably my favorite season up here, so it's pretty cool.
Oh,
But
good.
I tell you what, we got a lot of things that we want to talk about in terms of the NFL and college, so we might want to get to it. Um, what do you think about our Falcons getting their
I'm
first
ready.
win?
I'm ready for action.
All right, sounds good. What do you think about our Falcons getting their first win?
Um, um, it's good. It was a good thing. It was a must win.
Hmm.
And one of those things that if we didn't get that win, it would have been hard to get any. We would have been hard pressed by it. So,
Yeah. For me, it was very, very mixed feelings. On one hand, hey, I'm a Falcon fan. I want us to win. I want us to do well. I want us to beat everybody we play against. And there was a couple things I liked. We'll get to it a little later, I'm sure. But I shout out to Mayfield. I thought he played reasonably well. I was impressed by him. There's
wait,
a couple other guys that did pretty
you
good.
mean you can't? You shouldn't give up? Are you saying you shouldn't give up on a rookie left guard after one game?
Probably not. Probably not. Maybe not.
I'm just
Yeah.
checking because it seems like that's
Hmm.
what we're trying to
Hmm.
do as a fan base, and that was how we were living. So I'm glad
Yeah.
we.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty tough on my Falcons. I admit it. I will say though that our defense, man, we've got some man. They played their butts off. I felt really good about like, man, well, we might win a couple of games. Here's the quandary for myself. I've shared this on this show before, and I've shared this with you personally. That in this NFL, in today's league, um, it's better to either be A, really good, or B, suck. So I don't know how I feel about the prospect of going 7-10. It's something I'm working on. I do understand from the player aspect, it's about growth and development and learning how to win. You know, and like I said, I want us to do well. I want us to win every game. But if we don't have a really good shot of getting the playoffs, it's kind of, Let's Gary Williams. Let's keep it real. Matty Ice seems timid when it comes to having to make a play, big play. Yeah. I think he's starting to hear the haters. I think that's what's happening. What do you think, Jameed?
I don't know if it's haters. I think that it's easy to see when it's not your quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we could see it at the end with Drew Brees. We could see it with Phillip Rivers. We could see it with Ben Roethlisberger. But a lot of us Falcons fans, and Matty Ice is my quarterback in Falcons history. So it's hard to admit, right? It's hard to admit. And I think if we're looking for Aaron Rodgers or even at this point Jimmy Garoppolo comeback like ability, that's not it.
No.
One of the things is when people say stuff like, well, they played back. They defended the deep routes. That's the check. That's the number one response in the check down Charlie excuse book, right? Because are you saying they didn't play back on Justin Herbert? That they didn't play back on Josh Allen? So apparently nobody has ever thought of playing back on Patrick Mahomes. That's not it. That's not it. They play coverage. Match days of challenging down the field are pretty over. I want anybody who was it. Well, he didn't have time. Go back and look at that first half. There were several 3 to 5 second pockets, and the ball still wasn't pushed down. There
was.
And I'm also a little tired of the blame the wide receiver thing, because this whole nobody was getting separation. You're looking at the game through a high school or college perspective. Sometimes Capcom really does this ridiculous in and out move and get some yard. There's no NFL wide receiver running butt naked wide open. That's not real.
Yeah, I tell you what. The other thing that I just that was really bothering me. Listen, we can forget the argument about whether we should have picked a tight end or whether we should have picked Justin Fields. That's dead. It is what it is. You got to roll with what we got. But what did bother me is if you're going to pick a tight end, you need to throw him the football. And I couldn't understand.
Feed him. Like literally. Feed him.
Yeah. Feed him. I'm going to make it to where he's going to get more targets than any other tight end in the league, because no tight end has ever been picked with this high of a pick. So that's telling me about what you think about me as a player. And I have been kind of disappointed. I think his play, from what I've seen, routes run good. He's huge, and he looked like he's spry. I mean, he just looks like a video game. He looks like everything that I thought he could be, as far as physically. It's amazing to see that big old number 8. But I don't know. I mean, we were in the red zone. I don't know. I mean, I just don't get our red zone issues. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And to the point where I'm like, man, it looks like we drafted this kid and read the newspaper clippings, but didn't really know exactly what to do with him. And that's concerning. That is very concerning. So.
Well, I mean, to your point, if you're going to make a draft pick that high, you have to make a concerted effort to use him. And if that's our concerted effort to use him, we got our concerted effort a little better. So
yeah.
And again, I'm on a road, so please forgive me if
he's glitching in and out, which you are, but
like
we're
a little glitch and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Just bear with us this evening. We apologize. We thank so much, Professor, for you even to be able to come on and give us some of your time. Gary, you're actually right. I did notice that Calvin has about 6 targets less. I don't know if that means what it comes off. It means I just don't think we're getting enough offensive possessions just yet. It's still really early. The Washington game will tell us a lot because the bad news for them is, well, the good news for them is their defensive front is what we thought they were. The bad news for them is that secondary has not performed well, which is weird because they got some players. So we'll see. I mean, we don't know what we're looking at just yet because that same Eagles team that came and kind of handed it to us week 1 looked pretty good week 2 against San Francisco, and then the other night against the Cowboys did not look like they were ready to play. So it's a young season, and I'm going to, I'm going to go back to what I've always done is kind of wait till week 5 or 6 before I really have an understanding of what I'm looking at. There's just a lot going on.
And remember, we have to play that same Cowboys team.
Yeah. Yep.
If we're looking like we looked and they look like they looked last night, the results are going to be closer to our first 2 weeks.
They're not. Well, and they're giving them the benefit about right now, as we're talking, they look like the best team in the NFC East. But like I said again, it's really, really early. There's a lot of football.
It is early, and that's what I was thinking when you were saying, "What if we go 7-10?" Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I didn't.
That might be what you're thinking.
Yeah, I didn't see a 7-10 performance. In reality, we actually did well in the red zone.
Oh, we did statistically,
and we've done well in the last 2 weeks. The problem is we're not getting to the red zone. So the old Falcons thing was we would move the ball up and down the field and then install in the red zone. The new thing is we hardly move the ball up and down the field, and when we do get to the red zone, we are pretty efficient. But 17 points is not enough to beat very many teams, especially with how our defense has performed thus far.
Overperformed.
So in other words, you can't take we're giving up 40 points a game, and then one game we hold somebody to 17. Now that's really our real defense. The other ones work. So I don't know that I believe that. So I think I agree with what you said. It's still a wait and see type deal as far as what our true defense is, what our true offense. I don't want to indict our offense, but some of the elements make it easier to defend when a team is not threatening you over the top at all.
What do you think about the rest of our division looks like? I will also say that, maybe we spoke too soon as far as Tampa Bay being undefeated this year. I just think it's really hard to repeat in today's NFL. I don't think that fans realize how tough it is. They barely – listen, I'm a Tampa Bay hater. I'm definitely a Tom Brady hater. I'm super Falcons through and through. I hate the entire concept of that team, how they were built, because it goes against what we're trying to do in Atlanta. But I'm not a hater in the true sense. What I mean is, I know that they got talent, they're a good team, but it is really, really hard to win in today's NFL. And this time, I remember last year, we weren't sure in the playoffs going in that Tampa Bay was a cinch. And in fact, I didn't think they were beating Green Bay. So I thought Green Bay I thought they were the best team just from my eyesight. Of course, there's probably some haterade in there too. But my point is, it's a lot of season left, but we don't know what we're looking at in terms of our rivals yet either. I don't know if Tampa Bay is as good as we thought they were. I know that Carolina Panthers probably who looked like really good, but they lost their best player. That's going to be tough for them.
It is.
And I don't know what the Saints are because I don't know. Jameis, sometimes he's going to be this and sometimes he's going to be that. I don't know what I get with Jameis Winston, which is why you don't want him as your starting quarterback, in my opinion. But
so, I mean, everything you said was spot on. I do think a couple things. It might make Tampa more dangerous having lost that game early because sometimes when you're trying to do the undefeated season, you start looking focus on what you should really be focusing on.
That's right.
and I don't think the undefeated season has anything.
That's right.
To do with what people. That's one. Two, I didn't think it was a possibility when you said we. You know, you were not talking about me and you because we were like, get out of here with that childish stuff. You know what I'm saying? Hey, what up?
Hey, man, it's true.
Yeah. We're not counting the Bucks out.
No, as long as they got that guy.
The Panthers are off to a great start. We'll see how long and how able they are to sustain it.
Yeah.
But what we know is we're in last place in the division.
Yeah.
Regardless, and every game counts in the NFL. So if we are going to make any noise, this next stretch is going to be important, and we have to play much better than we played. What up, West to Test? So
what's going on, man?
So yeah, that's kind of our charge. Looking around the NFL, it was quite a week. I think they said it might have been the most last score finishes.
Yes.
In the league history. Just a quick review on Thursday. They beat Houston. They kind of curb stomped down, but they lost Christian McCaffrey, as my co-host alluded to, and New Orleans went up to New England as an underdog and beat the brakes off New England. Mac Jones ended up throwing the ball 51 times. I don't think you ever want Mac Jones throwing the ball 51 times.
Not a good idea.
Went to the NFC North. Green Bay had a stunning, it was a great game. Sunday night victory over 49ers play intent. Just one of those great games of the season. And it probably wasn't even the best game of the week. You had Minnesota beat Seattle in what I thought was a must-win for them in that game, and even their coach's future. And remember when we were doing the previews of the game, I said I would stay out this because I don't trust Seattle.
I remember.
Seattle has not done well in those key games. So now Seattle is in last place in the NFC West.
Let me ask you something. You alluded to something in a phone conversation this weekend regardless of Seattle. What's going on with them? Is Russell not what we think he is, or is it maybe the scheme? They're just not able to piece it together.
If you look at it like a Seattle fan, you can think of all these excuses, and I'm talking here directly to our main fans who are Falcons fans. If you're looking at it as a Seattle Seahawks fan, the offensive line, maybe the defensive back, the special team assistant coordinator is not good. I saw the Gatorade guy drop the Gatorade, but for $40 million, isn't it Russ? Isn't it Russ, Ricardo? If you're paying $40 million, isn't it Russ? Are we going to Pete Carroll, the cheerleaders? I saw some of the pom-poms waving too loud. Come on, man. Come on, man.
It's got to be. It's got to be.
At this point, as a gambler, big game, gamble against Russ.
Yeah. One of the things that I brought up. One of the things I brought up when we talked about it briefly is I don't know. Hey, Janice, hope you're well.
Hey, Mom.
I don't know if he's won the locker room over. And I know that sounds crazy, but I think that there has been a stigma against him ever since.
You can say it sounds crazy, Ricardo, but the points that you make are just hard to refute. I mean, they go on a road against a team that's struggling. Let's think about this, Ricardo. If Seattle blew them out or won, period, what chance do they fire Mike Zimmer?
Man,
Give me your number.
I would say out of 10, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, so you can't get really more in battle in season than Minnesota was. And they came in and pretty much led the whole game. Like Seattle tried to make a comeback, but they led the whole game. and staying in that NFC North, Detroit played the game of their lives. I think Dan Campbell makes a funny guy to make fun of, but I have to say, mostly he has those guys. They probably are the least talented team in the NFL, and they had the Ravens on the ropes. Even though the Ravens, had a lot of guys out with COVID, because not only did they have a COVID infection, they have an infection of guys who don't want to get vaccinated. The Ravens are the least vaccinated team in the NFL. And is that going to affect them? It almost cost them a game against the Lions. And so that
should have. That was just the most amazing kick in the NFL history.
NFL history.
I couldn't believe it. I saw it live. I was like, he's going to make this kick. I mean, I thought, hey, this is the best kicker I've ever seen.
The fact.
Yeah, it's the best kicker I've ever seen.
And I was thinking about you.
You was?
I was thinking about you. And so for our viewers, jump in this chat box. Is it hyperbole? Are we caught in the moment to say that Justin Tucker is the best kicker in NFL history? He won me a couple of fantasy league championships, I can tell you.
Yeah, he's won me a couple of
Justin Tucker, like when he comes up, you're like, hey man, if this game is close, I got it.
Yep.
I got it. Especially, I like to play in leagues that reward longer field goals, not just bad offenses. You know what I'm saying? So like extra point for anything over 50, another extra point for anything over 55. He's gonna get you some points there. So is it? I'm just asking.
He's not sure. I don't know who you could argue against.
Question, because I mean I know he's young for kickers, right? Because so he probably can play till he's like 73. So eventually he'll move up those all-time scoring lists and stuff. Right now, if you had a kick for your mortgage, who from 53 yards out at the end of the game, who are you picking over Justin Tucker? Tell me.
Nobody over him. Period.
Tell me why stuff.
Well, I was going to say Harrison, Butker from Kansas City, but I've seen this guy Tucker do it too many times. It's not a time.
Yeah, so there's kickers who have these big legs like Justin Tucker, but I think Zerline's leg is historically has been, or at some points has been as strong as Tucker's. But Zerline has missed a lot of. Oh no, Sebastian Janikowski is one of the most overrated media creations.
I don't co-sign. I don't co-sign.
In NFL accuracy. I mean,
I don't.
Very inaccurate. He had a strong leg, but he was inaccurate, and he didn't kick all those game winners like Justin Tucker has.
Well, number one, I don't like to give credit to any of those swamp rats in New Orleans, but I got to give Morton Anderson a shout out. He's
Morton Anderson is a Falcon. What are you talking about? I don't acknowledge
for a period of time. For a period of time, he was. But if we're gonna, I'm pretty sure if he went in the Hall, he went in as a Saint. I mean, he might have played 14 years down there. We got to give him his props. I do think that we got a young talented kicker is pretty good. There's not too many guys I'd take over Young Ho Ko right now. Young Ho Ko, I really like him. He did. I like him a lot. But your point is,
Young Ho Ko is not on the tier of Justin.
I don't know yet. All I know is when I'm watching the games and I'm seeing where's lined up to miss. We missed another red zone opportunity this year and last year. I'm watching this guy's pretty consistent. Crosby, that's another good one. Boy, that was a clutch kick. You know what was clutch about that one? Was with that one, and maybe it's because we had already saw the 66-yarder, but we all saw it coming. Once Aaron made that second completion, I said, "Oh, they left a little too much time on that clock," and goodness, I just like, man, I've seen him do this a lot. I don't know too many guys that can. Man, he looked cool as a cucumber. When it was 30-something seconds, he looked focused. He looked like, we got this. We got one timeout, and we got this.
Listen. listen,
Mm-hmm.
I hate retro history, right? And so when I agree, James Priest. See, tell Ricardo he's a Falcon.
Yeah.
I hate retro history, and so of course because he pulled it out, he said he left too much time. I don't know.
What could you do? What could you do?
Any quarterback, including Tom Brady, that 37 seconds, and you kick it out, man. You as a defense, if you can't do that, I mean that's like 37 seconds is not the same as a minute.
The question was, why'd you leave Devontae Adams open? Like that's the guy you leave open? Like, I'm going to stick 3 people on him. He's not beating me.
Right.
Me, but it ain't going to be Devontae Adams. He's already been kicking our butt all night. And apologies to my guy Julio, who was number 11, but he's number 2 out there in Tennessee. And I'm going to say DeAndre Hopkins has been in the conversation. But I think pound for pound, the best wide receiver in the league just might be Devontae Adams. Yeah, I agree with you, Lance. That soft zone hurt him. It always does. It's just ridiculous.
And to your point, Lance, that's when you decide to play that soft zone, then you can't double Devontae Adams. So when you make that conscious choice to go to a
I'm gonna put a man on Devontae.
That's the risk that. I would have maybe done man 2 or some kind of combo zone, or had a line. Even if it was a safety instead of a cornerback, somebody's got to be running with Devontae to discourage that. That was now. First of all, you can't. Let me go back. Let me go back with the retro history. The throw that Aaron Rodgers made on that first pass to Devontae. Here's all the people in the league now who can make that throw. Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. That's it. So,
that's it.
Like when you drop your zone, there's no. First of all, there's no. Pretend defense that fans want.
Well, let me ask you this, Professor.
We're completing that because somebody would have already played it. Buddy Ryan.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Professor. Why Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes? I'm going to probably put a little pressure on them, and that might not be status quo, but I can't have Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes just sit there and get 4 seconds to decide where they're going to throw. You can't have them do it because they'll pick you apart. They're going to pick you apart anyway. So I'd rather give them something else to have to think about.
And to me, I agree. You know, we talked about that. Like, I get the concept of rushing 3 or rushing 4, but I got one of those 3 or 4 have to be a blitzer, right? Yeah. Somebody's got to be getting a free run at him to make him move off his spot. But because to your point, even if you're saying, well, we're going to drop 7 or drop 8, you're challenging their arm. You're beating them up or getting them off that spot.
Still bringing up all these. I don't want to hear about those.
My brother is finally on the Herbert train. Just finishing up the review real quick, swinging around the NFL. We got the Bears against the Browns. That was a mismatch from the start. The Browns are one of the top 4 talented teams in the NFL, and they really took a whooping to the Bears, and it caused a little controversy, right? Because
let's talk about
what we've evolved into now is we're not watching whether our quarterback is performing up to his standards, and we're going to ignore whatever stats our quarterback. But the Falcons fan base has decided to watch all mobile quarterbacks.
That's one part of the conversation, but there's another part.
Only that Falcons could have drafted.
Yeah, there's one other part of the conversation we got to have because it's hot button topic up here. The coach did Justin Fields no service, no help. And if you're watching it, it was very obvious. It's like, now you've had Justin Fields on your roster for 149 days, and you don't know what plays that he would benefit from him, that would benefit for him. Yeah, the Bears look horrible, but you know what it was when you decided to have him as your starter, and now you don't know. Well, that's convenient. Now, why would you do that? What do you think about that?
Well, I would say that a lot of the people who rush to say Justin looked bad. First of all, we know you didn't see the game because he was maybe we know that the subscriptions are down in NFL Sunday Ticket. So you just saw the stats in the bad highlights.
Yeah, just say that.
And if you watch the game, I think they said that the first time Justin Fields threw the ball, they were down 14, and it was a third down and more than 10.
Yeah, it was embarrassing to watch.
So when you say he didn't do what, let me say this again. The first time he threw the ball, they were in the second quarter. They were down 14, and it was third and 13. So
and mind you, our offensive line is pretty bad, and I thought we probably had the worst offensive line. I know that is not true now because the worst offensive line in the entire NFL is easily the Bears. At least we have a couple of pieces. There is nothing worth keeping on the offensive line, and I don't understand why you would play that boy at all if you either A, you're going to give him a line to help him work with it, or B, just say, you know what, punt the season. What are you doing? You know, and I don't understand. And now they're talking about up here, he doesn't know who he's going to start next week. I think, and I hate to say it, but I watched the game. I live here in Chicago. It was obvious to me that the coach was trying to set a precedent, and I think it was so you're saying this. No, I think that they were saying, hey, you know, we need to quiet down these. Hey, put Justin Fields in. We're going to put him in, make sure he doesn't look great, which he did not. But you did not give him anything to work with. You didn't give him. I mean, you have Myles Garrett. No one's chip blocking.
That is
no one's chip blocking Myles Garrett. Yeah, it is. It is. Right. And I don't do that often, at least not publicly. But you have Myles Garrett, who when we had our first NFL show, I believe I said that guy will be Defensive Player of the Year. And I was pretty. He's on his way, and he's really good, but he ain't that good. What that is like, hey man, after the second or third time he's back there, put a chip block on him. Put a. You know, hey, yeah, come on.
Yeah, I mean,
9 sacks.
It was a tough plan and a tough going. And they actually have Nick Foles. If they wanted, if Justin Fields wasn't ready, which it's obvious he's not ready, then could have started Foles, because I was advocating for I was advocating for the Jets to trade for Nick Foles, and because Justin Fields wasn't the only. In fact, if you look across all the rookie quarterbacks in this class that was supposed to be the best quarterbacks ever since 1983, they're all struggling. And what do they have in common? They're all playing for bad teams too early. I like Wilson. Wilson, but at this point, we are in danger of I always get the Carr brothers mixed up. We're
Derek Carr, David Carr.
We're in danger of David Carring him. He has been sacked over 5 times per game. Now he's gotten to the point where he's averaging 4 interceptions per game.
And they don't have a piece of a backup to even put in.
Even down in they don't have a backup at all. No. They don't. I think Flacco is their backup, but he's on injured reserve. Yeah. So they have just a guy like Ricardo Billingsley or Jameek Williams as the backup. Yeah. So, but similar things are happening in the Jaguars. The Jaguars, the Jets got whooped pretty handily, and which that part is not that's not surprising. But you're concerned about the long-term effects as far as Wilson. And Lawrence is, Lawrence was one of my favorite prospects. I was like, slow down on the Andrew Luck, because I think because Andrew Luck retired early, we've kind of diminished what he was. Andrew Luck had a chance to finish top quarterbacks in NFL history. So let's stop calling people Andrew Luck. But I still think Trevor Lawrence has a lot of potential, but are they wasting it with him bashing his head up against the wall? And that's concerning. And NFC East, you saw on Monday night, the Cowboys whooped Philly. We already talked about that. Washington is being exposed a bit. The Bills look like one of the best teams, the top teams in the NFL. They started off slow against Pittsburgh, and it really was a lot of special team stuff and a little bit of turnovers. But they're rolling. They rolled all over Washington, and it didn't look good. We beat the Giants, so we know what that happened.
Having said that, though, to that point, though, what I was so adamant about the defensive MVP, you were really adamant about the offensive MVP and the overall MVP, and that's Josh Allen. And I think you might be right on that one, sir, because he looked amazing. I mean, the truth is, I don't know if you've seen the best out of the Bills yet, but, man, he is rolling. He's rolling.
His improvement from the year before last to this last year was unbelievable. Like, if somebody told you that, you'd be like, no, that's mad. And then it seems like that improvement is still continuing because it's numbers. You had
I never do this.
Are you nuts?
Who
would
you deserve what you get. If you had Josh Allen on the bench, you don't even get the out. That's almost up. You deserve what you get. Why would you have? What did you have in your roster when James Bill was on the bench, sir? If that's your shit makes me, you need.
I'm ashamed of that.
You should even tell nobody else that.
He's never saying public. Go back and delete that comment.
You said I'll tell you later about lots of that.
So the West, the NFC West, the Niners lost, and the Rams have become the early Super Bowl overreaction darlings. I think they look good. They still have some opportunities. That defense looked great, and they humbled that Bucs defense. But 24 points is beatable. Like, obviously their running back depth is going to hold them back. But if McVay can figure out a way, that's the difference. If you can challenge the field, down the field, Cooper Kupp is undefendable in underneath the intermediate routes. I don't know who what would be your plan, because he is the ultimate zone buster.
Yes, he is.
But who's going to if you put your best guy on Cooper Kupp?
Yeah. And it's
and they have Robert Woods. So I love what they have going.
Because Robert is actually the better athlete. He's quicker, faster, stronger than Cooper Kupp. But Cooper Kupp, the essence of a wide receiver is not how quick you are, not how fast you are necessarily, not how strong you are. It's your ability to run that route tree. And I'm telling you, this guy, he looks like he's wide open every play.
I think to your point, Cooper is quicker while Robert Woods is faster. And he just can get in and out of those breaks. So you got to figure out a plan. Moving over to the AFC really quickly, the AFC North, the Patriots lost, the Jets lost.
Apologies.
Miami lost in overtime.
Yeah. They actually played pretty well. Better than I thought. I don't know. Brisket is a pretty good quarterback, but he's destined to be a backup.
He's just one of those guys. Did you just call it man Brisket?
Yeah, Brisket. Jacoby Brisket.
Brissett.
I'm sorry.
Why'd you call him? The man got a family, and you out here calling him barbecue.
Well, Jacoby Brissett, he's a decent quarterback. He's just one of those guys that I think he's just capped it. This is, because I had high hopes from him when he was under Belichick, but I'm realizing, you know what, this is probably as good as he's going to get. I realized that when he was in Indianapolis, actually. I was like, he's probably capped at his potential. That's pretty good. If you have him as your backup quarterback, I'd take him in Atlanta. I'll tell you that. But it was a good game, all things considered.
Yeah. The North, Baltimore pulled it out against Detroit. We already talked about that. The big upset.
Yeah. You mean
that I called even over Pittsburgh?
Yep. Well, we don't want to give too much time to them, but we want to give a little bit of time to college because we got to talk about those dogs. And I know my guy James Priest is excited to hear us talk about the Bulldogs, and we're going to talk about Alabama too. What do you think this weekend? How'd you feel about? Let's go ahead and go with the Bulldogs first, and then we'll kind of.
So I mean, there were a lot of upsets this week. There were upset college.
There was.
But one team that didn't get upset was the Bulldogs.
Mm-hmm.
They were dominant from start to finish. They finished the game. They covered the 35 like I told you they would with no problem.
Yep.
And then they have Arkansas coming up. And Arkansas all of a sudden has both Alabama and Georgia fans concerned.
I tell you what, though, Arkansas is not going to be a pushover. I've been warning Georgia fans, listen to me. That guy, man, Sam Pittman he really is pit boss. He knows how to get the most out of his players. We know that because we saw what he did with 3 stars at Georgia. We know we saw what he did with 5 stars at Georgia. And that's actually probably my key to the game. It's going to be our defensive line versus their offensive line. That's probably their best attribute. They got a nice quarterback, too. I was pleasantly surprised when I watched them. I said, wow, they really are probably one of the 10 best teams in the country. So I think they're up to number 8 in the country now, and deservedly so. It should be a heck of a game this weekend. I'm excited for it.
Well, I think it's going to be a test of the trenches on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
Right? They have the big guys that Georgia used to have that we kind of moved away to our little more pass blocky guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be kind of the old Georgia line versus the new Georgia line. And they have some big guys on defense as well. So they're
yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Physical. The back end is probably hasn't faced a team that can throw like Georgia, and so that's going to be the biggest test.
Yeah. Well, Jameed, you've been called out on the comment section by a couple of guys. Georgia Tech did indeed show up.
I was. Georgia Tech. I mean, not just showed up; they beat the brakes off of UNC.
Good night. I was like, this is the same team that lost.
They did good enough money.
Yeah, this is the same team that lost to this community college week 1 up here in Illinois. It lets me know I don't understand what I'm watching just yet because I didn't know that team. Yeah, I was very impressed by them. In fact, that was one of those wins where it was they would beat them again if they faced them next week. They're a good team. They're a better team than I thought.
Oh yeah, that was a shocker. And Georgia Tech absolutely is in play to win their division, right? And you know what? I never mind losing.
He's right. He's
money when a local team was. We're still in the gathering. So we're not putting big bets down. But so I didn't mind losing that one. But I really thought UC would cover, but they didn't. But if you follow me, you did go 3-2.
Yeah. Go ahead. You brought up a couple of other upsets. Clemson losing to NC State. Wow. Now NC State was the beginning of the year the team that I thought would give them the most trouble, but I did not think that they were going to lose to NC State. They're just not.
I
hated it as a Georgia fan because now that negates a lot of what I hoped the Georgia win was. Maybe I didn't like that. But outside of that, you got to give NC State a ton of credit. They took it to them. I mean, it was a physical game, and they let them know. I think from what I saw on Saturday, because I was able to catch that one too, they were the better ball club. Now, does Clemson have more talent? Yes. They're young, man. They're young. Offensive line is still, I think they're trying to figure out some kinks. Probably had a call or two that probably could have went the other way. It was a close, good game, but NC State's for real. They're going to be a problem in Clemson side for the foreseeable future. They got some good young talent over
there. Yeah, I mean, not as much talent as Clemson.
No.
I think Clemson had 2 generational quarterbacks in a row, and that never happens. And if you say, well, what about Alabama? Mac Jones is not generational. So, I mean, and that's no knock on Mac Jones.
No.
They had, and I'm not sure if
we don't know what Tua was.
Tua was generational either. Lawrence, right? I mean, well, Lawrence and Watson were both several slots ahead of Tua, and they ran the offense well, but that covered up a lot of ills, and some of that is coming home to roost for Clemson.
A lot of my Clemson family feel like it's because of Travis Etienne. They thought that was a bigger loss than people giving it credit for, like no running game.
Right. Well, I mean, if you're a college team and your running game's going back, I don't believe you. Right? So you have a good running game. You may not have an incredible running game without your one special back. But if you can't run the ball at all, it's not Travis Etienne. So Shipley is a college talent if they could get that line together. The out in the Pac-12, things couldn't have gone worse for the Pac-12.
Yeah, which we knew that was coming. I think you called a couple of those, didn't you?
We did. And all their eggs are firmly in the Oregon basket. In fact, they have a conference call and everybody should lose to Oregon the rest of the season because that's the only chance they have. Because Oregon needed USC to look good so that when Oregon beat USC, it looked like a better win. I think USC got knocked out of the top 25. That was my second loss of the weekend. And not only did they lose, they never looked good. They got beat physically the whole game. So, and if you're the interim coach or if I'm in the coach searching committee, I just put a big X across the current coach's name because I mean, I don't, to watch my team get physically dominated is tough, but to watch them get physically dominated to a state team in a timber state, that's tough.
Didn't Oklahoma have a tough game against Nebraska? I think Nebraska kind of gave them everything they could handle.
That was last week. They had a tough game against West Virginia this week.
That's right. Oklahoma. West Virginia. I apologize. West Virginia.
No. Don't apologize. What you said is true. They had Oklahoma has only covered one spread this whole year.
Okay.
Don't bet Oklahoma. They're overrated. They
But what do you see? What's wrong with them? What's wrong with them? Have you got a chance to?
Their defense, like I guess maybe they're talking relative. Every year you hear, well, their defense is going to be good this year. Big 12 good or actual good? So that's the thing. And I think Rattler, we pinned a lot of hopes on Rattler. But they needed him to be. They needed Rattler to be Hurts or Baker Mayfield, and he may one day be one of those guys. He's not either one of those guys. Right?
Well, I'll tell you what, the Oklahoma fans don't seem to think so because towards the end of the game, they were yelling for Caleb Williams, the backup, to get in. The backup is always the most popular player.
Yeah, it was a lot, and and Ohio State actually looked better without C.J. Stroud in there. And I don't know that that's a comment on C.J. Stroud because it's hard to pin the loss on him. But you know, I think the story of the Big Ten is not finished. I think, Michigan passed a test against Rutgers because they won a game that they should have lost.
Yeah.
And they would have lost in a good. Rutgers came to play. Rutgers is a tough team, and they were able to withstand that. And that hasn't been their hallmark.
Yep.
And,
yeah, it's kind of a weird time with the college football because we're not sure what we're looking at with anything except for maybe two teams. We're pretty sure of Georgia.
I want to slow down on that because I do think what happens is we paint this narrative, and it seems like all the other teams have no flaws, and Alabama and Georgia have flaws. All the other teams have flaws, and Georgia and Alabama. That couldn't be further from the truth.
Well, see, to your point, though, that's what's going to be the beauty. This weekend, boy, it's going to be a lot of questions answered for me. We'll probably talk about that more in our next episode on Thursday, of course. But Georgia plays Arkansas, as we talked about, but actually Alabama is going to be playing Ole Miss. And I've shared with Jameed off record, and I'm sharing it here now. If there's one team that I fear outside of the SEC, outside of Alabama, it would be I don't want to see no parts of Ole Miss. I think we can beat them, but it's going to be a tough out. And to answer Converse 8's question, is Clemson out of the playoffs? Yeah, they're pretty much out. That you're not going to, it would take. Is there a scenario where they could possibly mathematically get in? Yes, but doesn't look good. Matter of fact, part of the reason is because I think that the SEC will have at least two teams in the playoffs this year. It's just, you can't argue against Alabama. You can't argue against Georgia if they continue to do what they're doing, pile up wins and win the games on their schedule. So you got those two. And I tell you what, man, there's a couple of teams, you got to beat Texas A&M. And I don't know if they'll lose to anybody else outside of Alabama. Same with Ole Miss. Ole Miss, after Alabama, they might not lose a game. They don't play us. So LSU is always a tough one because they're brothers. They kind of have that Auburn Georgia thing where it doesn't matter how much one's better than the other. It's just a tough out either way. So it should be a good. SEC's tough, man. There's a reason why we're always saying, hey, SEC pride. It's not just about the pride, but it says about who we think our program is too. Yes, and I agree with James Priest. They're both in. If they show up in the championship.
Right. I agree, and it's actually a higher chance if they're both undefeated. So
yeah, I think that's what's going to happen.
Literally, like both Alabama and Georgia has got to be cheering for each other to stay undefeated because it would make a loss to the other one seem less. So if you're a Georgia fan and you're like, who do you want to win between Ole Miss and Alabama? Ricardo just told you why we're cheering for Alabama. One,
we are.
Alabama is number one. We need them to stay number one. We need them to be the undenied number one when we play them. So whether we beat them or not, that doesn't happen. If Ole Miss were to beat Alabama,
that changes everything.
And not lose any other game, they might find themselves in the SEC championship, and then we can't say for sure that if we lost to Ole Miss, we would still be in, right? No. Because if Ole Miss knocked Alabama, because 4 times, correct me if I'm wrong, James Priest, 4 times Alabama has failed to win the West and failed to even play in the SEC championship. And 4 times they've made the playoffs, and 2 or 3 times they won the national championship.
Yeah, that's my brother, but he ain't gonna admit that. But yeah, that's true. We would be remiss to me. We don't have much time left. We got to touch base on what's going on tonight. Very important Braves game. The Braves are playing the Phillies. Now, this is basically the winner of this series will win this. Will win the division, and whoever wins the division will make the playoffs. And because of the Cardinals' incredible run, if you don't win the division, you're not going to make the playoffs.
You're out.
So what's your thoughts?
this is probably one of the most pressured regular season series ever, because although this is not the last games of the season, you can't assume anything. But their slate is much easier than our
Very much. Yeah.
slate. I think they play the Marlins, and we play not the Marlins. So I would have to look at a schedule, and with the glitching that we're going, I'm scared to even look on the internet. But we a 2-1 series victory would be really important for
monumental. Yeah. Monumental. I think there's only like 10 games left after the series, correct?
Less than that. I think it
less than that. Okay. Yeah. I think we're in our final 10 maybe right now. I'll have to go back and double check. We'll talk about it more on our Thursday episode.
I would have to think. Yeah, we'll talk about it more on Thursday. Depending if we could get our connection stuff together.
Yeah. Well, are you going to be back Are you going to be back home on Thursday? Or are you going to still be out of town?
I'm not coming back until Friday evening. So
okay. Well, we'll make it work, guys. We'll make it do what it do. I promise you.
We as a franchise will definitely be on.
Yeah. I have one other comment. Making the playoffs, I love this. Making the playoffs without Kuna would be quite a feat. Braves have made some great moves, which is very true. I love our general manager. Not so crazy about our on-the-field manager. That's me. Listen, I'm not going to go on a bully pulpit. I don't know. I think that Snicker, when I'm watching him, when I'm hearing him, when I'm seeing the product on the field, I feel like he has done a great job. I mean, he's probably done the most that he can do. And I say this not having a name off the – usually when I'm saying this, I'm shooting off the hip. I'm not shooting off the hip. I have 2 or 3 names in mind as who would be his replacement. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I'm kind of sure the third base coach, Ron Washington, has done it before.
Yeah, that's the first name that comes up.
And if you want to talk about analytics, Ricardo, and I'm not going to draw this out, what I can tell you is there's no team with a higher run differential, which is really how you figure out in a worst record. We shouldn't even be in this, regardless of Acuna being out or not. So that's what makes it hard to justify.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, hey, guys, man, we thank you so much again for myself, Professor Jameen. We are so grateful for each and everybody coming out. We will be back on Thursday. As far as from now on, after this week, we'll be on Mondays and Thursdays. Same bat time, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central. That'll start next week. So we'll be on Thursday, same time, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But until then, for myself and Jameen, we want to say peace up, A-Town down.